Did you know the current Broadway hit Suffs follows a long tradition of suffrage plays that have been performed for more than 100 years? Welcome back to Theater History Thursdays. Today is part 2 of Suffrage Theater, so if you haven't seen part 1, make sure to check that one out first. As we talked about last week, these plays were instrumental in giving women the right to vote, both in the US and the UK where they originated. The use of plays for propaganda purposes actually began in the 19th century with the New Woman movement. Theater women were the embodiment of this phenomenon. They were self-supporting, with several playwrights and actresses achieving millionaire status, or today's equivalent, by the early 20th century. They were avatars of a new sexual freedom and challenged all kinds of gender norms. They were not afraid to use their fame and fortune, along with their theatrical skills, to take on the most entrenched and powerful interests of the time. And they created a highly effective propaganda machine in the writing and production of hundreds of suffrage plays. As early as 1868, a number of clubs had been created for professional women in different fields to gather, giving them a network of supportive contacts, opportunities to enhance their organizational and leadership skills, and a place where they could discuss political and social issues. The 12th Night Club was founded in 1891 specifically for theater women, and it's the oldest of its kind still operating today. The Gamut Club was particularly important, as it allowed women to work in all areas of production that were denied to them in commercial theater. They produced their first feminist theater production in 1912 with The Parrot Cage, written by longtime leading lady and club president Mary Shaw. A raft of new feminist and suffrage plays from the Gamut followed, produced in the club rooms and some even in commercial theaters. Suffrage performances ranged from serious dramas that honored the value of women's work to satirical comedies that poked fun at anti-suffragists. The vaudeville circuit was particularly valuable for suffrage plays, and even Broadway theaters opened their doors for fundraising to support the many organizations dedicated to getting the vote. This included Maxine Elliott. She was the first woman to have her very own Broadway theater. Of the hundreds of suffrage plays that were written and produced, many have been lost, but those that survived are still easily available and are still being performed today. Theater women also dominated suffrage parades, adding pageants or mini-dramas and tableaus. The 1913 suffrage parade in Washington, D.C. is the best example of this. This is when more than 100 women stopped in front of the U.S. Treasury building and performed the allegory, staged by Hazel McKay, an early woman director. NPTC has a lot of experience with the suffrage plays. Our Suffragists from the Stage project began by focusing on 3 leading ladies of the day who were powerhouses in the movement. We expanded this to a 90-minute multimedia concert reading, which introduced audiences to dozens of theater women who wrote, directed, produced, and acted in suffrage plays and created lavish dramatic pageants across the country. We performed throughout New York City and even in the Finger Lakes region, a few miles from Seneca Falls, the birthplace of the U.S. suffrage movement. That's all for this week of Theater History Thursdays. Make sure to come back next week for even more theater history with New Perspectives Theater Company.